I sent one video in the morning at 9 o'clock, which shows you that how to install a VMware. And on this VMware, if you want to install an Linux operating system, how can you install? But if you want to install the operating system, you should have like ISO image of your operating system. So for that, you need to download that from Red Hat site. You need to download from Red Hat site here. So if you want to download from Red Hat site and if you want to install on that, you can take some help from Varun. Varun, he will be helping on that, installing an operating system into this VMware. And for that, we need to have some Red Hat credentials also. So all the Red Hat credentials also are with Varun. He will provide you. Otherwise, you can ping me in that WhatsApp. I will provide you the credentials for Red Hat so that from there you can log into the Red Hat and you can download it and you can install the operating system. Okay. Now to start with the Linux administration, first we should have a basic things of this Linux administration. So initially we need to have a clear understanding on the structure. We are the users. We are the high end and we are the users. And we will be managing the hardware. The first level is hardware and the last level is user. User will be accessing the hardware. User cannot understand hardware language and hardware cannot understand user language. To have a communication between this user and hardware, in between we have two layers. One is called as kernel and second one is called as shell. So what is the difference? What is this kernel and what is this shell? The kernel is an interpreter between the hardware and the shell. Means whatever the hardware executable instructions are there, we have instruction cycles of hardware. All the hardware instruction cycles are can be understood only by the shell. So to convert that hardware instructions to a normal language, to a like machine language, for that we use a kernel. Then we have a shell. The shell is an interpreter between the kernel and the user. User cannot understand the machine language, all those kind of things. So for that, it takes the input from the kernel and converts that into user understandable language. So we have these two interfaces, kernel and a shell. Hardware. On the hardware, the first layer will be kernel. The kernel will convert the hardware instructions language into shell understandable language, and then shell converts that into user understandable language. In this, you may get two questions. What is the difference between kernel and shell? Kernel is an interpreter between hardware and a shell, and shell is an interpreter between kernel and a user. These things you need to remember. Okay. So especially when you're Unix administration, a Linux or Unix anything, whatever the environment we are working, we'll be working on this shell. So how many kinds of shells you have, all this we'll be discussing in a point one by one. Then later, when you come to these files and directories, where all these files and directories are stored in your Linux operating system or in a Unix operating system, what are they and how they are defined? When you talk about this in Windows operating system, in Windows we have C drive. Under C drive we have control panel. Under C drive we have control panel, and then we have like a program files, and we have like a Windows executable files. Different files are there under this C drive. Everything resides on C drive. C drive is a core part in Windows administration. Whereas in Unix here, everything will be under root, and this root is identified as slash like this. This is called as root. Everything will be under root. This root is similar to C drive in Windows. Under this root here, we have different kinds of commands. We have different kinds of commands like bin, sbin, etc, temp, dev, usr, mnt, var, then opt, home, like mail, atm. Like this, we have different kinds of things. And all these will be under root. All these will be under root. So to identify this, we call it as /bin. this root, instead of identifying that, I'll be spelling it as slash here. So this is slash bin. Actually, we should call it as root bin. And this is slash s bin. And this is slash etc, like this. Oh, what is slash bin? What is this bin consists of?
Babu,
Especially
earphone
when you're working on your system, we'll be having two different kinds of users. One is a normal user and second one is administrative user. Normal user and administrative user. So all the commands that are executed by normal user, but all the commands that are executed by a normal user commands, right? We'll be having some powerful commands and a normal general commands. The normal general commands will be under bin, right? So bin consists of a normal user commands, whereas sbin consists of, sbin stands for super binaries. It consists of administrative commands. Administrative commands means what are the commands that can be executed by administrator will be under sbin. The normal users cannot execute administrative commands, but administrator can execute the normal user commands. So we have two different categories here, bin and sbin. Sbin consists of only the normal user commands. Sbin consists of administrative user commands, right? And administrator, the main administrator is called as root user. Main administrator is called as a root user. This root user can execute all the commands which are under sbin as well as bin. Then slash etc, it is called as executable. It is called as executable. It consists of all the configuration commands which is required for the Unix. It somewhat tight. It consists of all the configuration files. So if you want to configure some server, or if you want to configure from service here, so a server, service, and everything. If you want to configure thing, first we require a configuration file. All the configuration files will be under slash etc, where etc is called as executable.
Okay, bro.
Then we have slash temp. Whereas this slash temp. Slash temp stands for temporary. It consists of the temporary files which are present in the system here. Let me mute him.
Sure.
Varun, can you mute yourself, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Slash temp. Slash temp consists of all the temporary files. Temporary files means if you want to store something temporarily at some location, it is called as this are stored under slash temp. And slash dev is called as devices. Slash dev is called as devices. When you connect any hardware device to your system, like a hard disk, pen drive, or something, if any hardware is connected in your system, that is located under this location, and that is called as slash dev. For example, when you connect a first hard disk to your system, the hard disk is the first hard disk label is SDA. Now, if you want to search for this new disk, the new disk will be under one location. The location is nothing but slash dev. Example, the first hard disk will be slash dev slash SDA. The next USR means Unix system resource. It's nothing but unique system resource. It is similar to program files in Windows. It is similar to program files in Windows. So whatever the non-executable files are there, all the lib files, everything will be under this location. All the non-executable files which are required for the configuration files will be stored under this location, that is called as USR, which is called as Unix system resource. It consists of, it is similar to a program files in Windows. And slash MNT, where slash MNT is nothing but which we call it as temporary mount point. In Windows, when you create a partition, for every partition, a drive letter is allocated. We call it as a C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive, like that. But in Unix, we don't have any drive letters for the partitions. In Unix, we have a mount point. We have a mount point. For example, you can create any name and you can use that name as a mount point. And by default, one mount point exists by default here. That is like a MNT, the default mount point. Default mount point. Slash var means variable. Slash var stands for variable. It consists of all the log files. The thing is, when you're working on a system, whatever action happens in a system, that has to be recorded. Whatever action happens in a system, that has to be recorded when you execute some command, whether that is successful or failed, what was done, at what time it was done, right? What was the desired output, whether it's successful, failed, everything has to be generated in the form of logs. And all these logs will be under one location. The location is called as slash var, where slash var stands for variable. The next we have slash opt. Slash opt stands for optional. Optional. When you install any third-party tools, all the third-party tools will be stored under this location. That is called as slash opt. What is third party? The tool that is installed in the system which is not manufactured by the same product. For example, I have a VMware, and when I'm trying to install on Red Hat, the VMware is not developed by Red Hat. It was developed by VMware. If you are trying to install this VMware on Red Hat, then that VMware becomes a third party to Red Hat. Then we have slash home. Slash home means this is nothing but a user home directory. Okay, when a normal user logs into the system and he creates a files, all these files are stored under this location called slash home. Assume that I have one user Murli, right? When the user Murli logs in system and when he create a files, so what happens under slash home, by default it creates one directory called Murli. In the directory it creates the files. So all the files created by user Murli will be located under slash home slash Murli. In a similar way, assume that I have some user by name Paul. So when the Paul logs into the system and he creates some files, all these files will be stored at the location called slash home slash Paul. So by default, all the normal users directories will be under slash home, where slash home is called as user home directories. And then we have slash mail is a default mail directory. Default mail directory. So if you send some sample mails to the system, so whatever the mails that are sent and received, that will be under this location, that is called as slash home. As well as we have the slash adm, this is a temporary folder which is required for the administrative configurations and everything here. We'll come to know about this slash adm in brief in future. If you try to put some pressure on the slash optm, it will be a bouncer for you for now. So for now, only just remember these things which are very much important. Let me repeat it one more time. This slash is called as root user, which is similar to C drive in Windows. And by default, everything is stored under the slash, and where the slash is called as root. And slash bin. Bin stands for binaries. It will be under root. So slash bin. It consists of all the normal user commands. And sbin stands for super binaries. It consists of all the administrative commands. And the administrator can by default can execute all the commands which are under slash bin as well as sbin also. Where etc stands for executable. It consists of all the configuration files. If you want to configure any server or any service, for that we require a configuration files, and all the configuration files will be under slash etc. Slash temp, it consists of all the temporary files. If you want to store something temporarily for some time at some location, then by default the location will be slash temp. Slash dev, dev stands for devices. Like when you connect any hardware devices, whether it's a hard disk, pen drive, or any hardware devices, when you connect the device, by default the device will be stored under one location, that is slash dev. Slash usr stands for Unix system resource. It consists of all the non-executable files which are similar to program files in Windows. /mnt is a default mount point. The thing is, when you create any partition, to access that partition, we require a mount point. In Windows, we use C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive like this. Whereas in Unix, we require a mount point, and the default mount point is /mnt. Otherwise, you can create any directory and you can use the directory as a mount point. /var stands for variable. It consists of all the log files, means whatever action happens in the system that has to be recorded. So all the logs, all the actions and recorded messages are stored under this location, that is /var. /opt stands for optional. It consists of all the third-party tools. When you install any third-party tool into your system, by default that is stored under this location /opt. /home is a default user home directory. So when a user logs into system and creates his files, all the normal users files are stored under this location that is called as /home. When any normal user logs in, by default on this name, a home directory will be created automatically. /mail is a default mail directory. Okay, so these are the basic directories. Especially when you complete the installation of your operating system, this is how it looks like. And if you want to, 1 minute, let me show you something like system logout as root. Okay, when you reboot your system, it will come and shows like this. During the installation, for a root password, it asks you a password. So we need to remember that password. So once the installation is completed, you will not be having any users like this. We'll be having 2 users only by default. One is guest, and the second one is root user. So not as a guest, we should log in and we should give that user. I just want to show it, but the click happened. So we need to select root user, and then the root user, we need to specify the password so that you can log into the system. Especially when you're working on a system, we'll be working on 2 different prompts. We'll be working on 2 different prompts. One is a dollar prompt, and second one is a pound prompt. Pound symbol is nothing but we call as hash symbol. Hash is nothing but a pound. So we'll be working on 2 different prompts. So dollar is for a normal user and hash is for administrative user. When you log in as a normal user, you will be working on a dollar prompt. But when you log in as an administrative user, we'll be working on pound prompt, that is hash prompt. Let me show you that. So I'll select this other user. The other user, I will give the login name as root and provide the password. Provide a simple password. The password which I generally use is root123 for all the systems, so that I can easily identify it. Initially, I'll be showing the 2 prompts, that was the difference between the dollar prompt as well as a hash prompt, and the directories also. So it will be opened up. If you want to work on in your Unix, everything is command mode. Initially, it's difficult for 1 week, but when you keep on practicing, it becomes easy. Just right click and select this, open in terminal. Okay, now you can see we are in terminal now. So we are in terminal. You can see this prompt. This is pound prompt, which we generally call as hash symbol. This is administrative prompt. This is administrator prompt. Let me switch user space hyphen Varun. I have this user Varun. Sorry, user doesn't exist. Let me create one user. User add Ratna. Something there. User add Abhi. Ooh. Okay, no problem. Password Abhi and give it as root123. Root123. And let me log in as this user EDHIV. Okay. Now see this. This is a dollar prompt, and this is hash prompt. Okay. This dollar prompt, this guy can execute only the bin commands. The commands and with bin, he can execute only those commands. Whereas this guy, when you're in hash prompt, you can execute both the commands which are in bin as well as sbin. Okay. Let me exit from this user, then cd root. This is the main directory in Unix. When you type ls, you can see all these basic things. You can see here bin and sbin. So what this bin consists of? Only the commands which can be executed by normal user, that is in dollar prompt ls. All these are the commands. He can create a directory, he can create a file, he can zip, unzip, he can cut, paste, all these things. But if you want to, when I go for this cd space slash sbin, super binaries ls, oh my god, see this, we have lot more commands. So these these commands can be executed only by the administrator. That is when you're working on hash prompt. You cannot execute these sbin commands when you're working on dollar prompt. Remember this point carefully. Okay, right. This is the thing. Now let me give you a few introduction about this the basic commands which you work in Linux. So when you first go for this command here, log name means it displays who logged in. Okay, otherwise you can give it as who am I, otherwise who or w. So when you go for this log name, it will simply displays the login name of the user who logged into the system. Or when you go for this command who am I, that who is this user who logged into the system and when he logged in and for how long he is accessing the system. Means he logged in on so and so date and 1533, this is the time for the time how much he is accessing the system. And when you go for this W here, this W is a simple command but very complicated and it gives a lot of information. The beauty of this command is it displays that how many users has logged into the system. Okay, from where they have logged into the system. If they have a system IP address, it displays the IP address of the system from which they have logged in. Their login time, at what time they are logged in, how long they are idle, their CPU utilization, all these kind of things, and at the time what they are doing. Especially you can see here the W user is watching the output of this command called W here. So what he is doing, everything will be displayed. So initially to find out who logged in, what is the login name of the user, log name, and who am I, so when I logged in and how long I am idle, who, how many users has logged into the system, W, how many users has logged into the system, when they logged in, what are the average load of the system, what are the CPU utilization, and at present what they are doing. All these things will be displayed by this command called W. Okay, and if you want to clear the screen, clear, that's it. And pwd will display the present working directory, will display the present working directory. So these are the things here. Now from here, let me try to create some files and directories. So if you want to create a files here, we have three commands. One is called touch, second is cat, and third one is called as vi. So these are the three commands by using which we can create files. and each command has its own importance. Okay, so first let us start with touch. Touch is a command which used to create a file. It is only used to create a file. We can create a single file or we can create multiple files. Okay, and 1 minute, when you go for present working directory, at present I'm working on this directory called sbin. I don't want in this, I want to change the directory. Cd means change directory. Now see this pwd, present working directory, I am under root. Now touch, the meeting will end in 10 minutes. Okay, fine. Touch a b c and slash temp slash d and slash var slash f. See this, I have created 5 files a b c d and f. While creating touch, by using touch you can create a single file like here touch z. You can create a single file or we can create a multiple files. The file names has to be separated with space. Every time when execute a command, this is the command that has to be executed, and what has to be executed, there should be some space between the command and the executable item. So a b c are the files. So for this a b c, I have not given any location where I want to save the file. I simply given the file names, whereas for d I given the location. Create this file d under slash temp and create this file f under slash var. So the f will be created under var and d will be created under tmp. Now you can see pwd stands for present working directory, where I am at present. I am under root, so ls. Can you see this? I have these files a b c, but I don't have this file d and f. So if you where d is under slash temp. When you go to this location, cd slash temp and ls, can you see I have file d here. And if you want to have file f, cd space slash var, then ls means list. I can see it here, a file f. So we can create files by using 2 methods. One is, this is called as like a normal path, and this is called as an absolute path. Absolute path means the absolute location where you want to save the file. Hope it should be clear. The thing is, when you create a files, when you create a by using touch, we can create a file. We can simply only create a file, but we cannot append the data to the file, or we cannot modify the file. Remember this point? By using touch, we can only create a file. We cannot append the data or we cannot modify the data. Okay. Suppose cat and file name a. See this? Oh, sorry. cd slash. I should go to the location. At present, saying that no such file or directory. Why? Because file a is under root. So when I go there, cat a. So no such file or directory, saying that. Why? Because at present we have a file, but there is no content in the file. By using touch, we can only create. But if you want to write some data to the file, cat like a single arrow and a file name a, where this single arrow stands for overwrite. Right? Now let me write some data. I am line 1 of file 1 and control D. Control D is to save. If you want to read the file cat a, can you see that content? Previously when I tried to read, it's saying no such file directory. Why? Because there is no data in the file. Now when I try to by using this cat, as this arrow stands for overwrite. Overwrite some data into the file. So write some data into the file. So I written this, I am line 1 of file 1. So when I read this cat file name, I am line 1 of file 1. Now instead of single arrow, we can use double arrow, where double arrow stands for append. So let me write one more line. I am a line 2 of file 1. Then control D. So cat file name. What the file name is a. Okay. So you can see it here. A single arrow is for append, whereas the single arrow is for overwrite, whereas double arrow is for append. Now, let me use a single arrow again. A single arrow is very dangerous option. Why? Because it overwrites. What will do? It overwrites. Now see this. In cat file name file A, I have two lines. What the two lines are? I am line 1 of file 1, I am line 2 of file 1. So again, cat single arrow file name, I am a line 3 of file 1, and control D. When execute this cat file name, what happened? It has overwritten. What has done? It has overwritten. So be very careful. By using cat, we can use two commands. One is this single arrow. This is called overwrite, whereas a double arrow is for append. Let me show you something here. Cat. Let me use one more file name B. I am line 1 of file B. Control D. So we can use like this cat A, B, and put it in file C. Means you can tell this by using cat, we can append the data of two files into a single file. Cat C. You can see this. I am line 1 of file 1. I'm line 3 of file 1. I'm line 1 of file B, like this. But we have one disadvantage by using this cat. That is, we cannot modify the data. We can create a file, we can append a file, but we cannot modify the data. If you want to create a file, append the data to the file, as well as modify the data to the file, for that we require this option called VI editor. I'll stop it here for today. Why? Because VI editor is somewhat tricky, and you should have some patience to understand this. So in tomorrow's session, we'll discuss about this VI editor. Okay.